Hello everyone, this is Steve with the Free Bullion Investment Guide. Today is November 9th, and I'm doing a review and outlook price analysis video for the US dollar. This is US dollar's daily chart, and to review last week's video, I'd shown you this falling wedge pattern. It is a positive pattern, and as you can see, the price of the dollar did move higher. I also stated in last week's video that I would be surprised if the dollar broke above 98.50. So far, it has stayed below, but doesn't mean that it couldn't rise a little bit more. Maybe on Monday it will, maybe shoot up on a high, but I'd be surprised if it closes above 98.50 starting next week. Now, the reason behind the dollar's rise was mostly because of the optimism about the trade war. There was good things being said on both sides from U.S. and China. But as far as the phase one deal is what they're calling it, being signed or being finalized, we haven't had any of that come out yet. So really all of this positive movement in the market could be for naught. We'll really have to find out. So as I just stated, the dollar did confirm the pattern to the upside. So now I can show you what I'm seeing for the week ahead. And I can get to the news for the week ahead as well that you'll want to pay attention to that will definitely have more weight on the dollar than just this pattern. So the pattern is a rising wedge. It is a negative pattern. The price of the dollar is expected to fall. As you can see in the MACD's signal lines are really stretching apart there. So that is a clear sign that we will likely see a change in direction here soon. As well as the RSI on the daily chart isn't too much above the neutral zone. So in the daily chart, the indicators aren't really showing anything, the chart indicators, but on the 4-hour chart, they are. In both the MACD and the RSI, you can clearly see that the dollar is in overbought territory and is likely going to start to move back down sometime soon. Let me go back to the daily chart and let me get to what you need to really pretty much pay attention to next week in the news. Next week, Jerome Powell testifies in front of Congress on Wednesday and Thursday. I would really expect to hear dovish words coming out of his mouth. So that will likely bring down the dollar, but again, I don't know. Nobody knows what he's going to say, and we won't know until he says it. So at that time, then the markets will weigh one way or another, and then that will move the dollar in that direction. Also, Trump comes out on Tuesday, and he has a speech at the Economic Club in New York. Likely the markets are going to be hanging on his every word as far as the trade deal, what's going to come out of that, tariffs, or if any other kind of deal, maybe some hopes for farmers as well. Anyways, the market will likely be hanging on his every word at that when he has a speech at that economic club in New York. Also, next week, a lot of Fed governors are going to have speeches on top of just Jerome Powell with his testimony. We have some of the names that John Williams, we have James Bullard, that's after Jerome Powell's when he testifies. But before we also, some of these names I'm not quite sure of, but Richard Claudia, as well as Neil, if I say his last, Cashkin, I believe it is. But I was going to say I was going to mess up his last name. I don't believe I did. So anyways, on top of that, we have Jerome Powell's speech, testimony in front of Congress. We have a lot of Fed governors coming out and having speeches as well. And on top of that, we have retail sales coming out on Friday. So all of this will weigh on the dollar one way or another. You want to pay attention to these things to see how the dollar is going to move next week. But as far as technical analysis goes, we are showing that it will likely fall in price. It will likely come down to one of these levels. Which one it stops at is anyone's guess. And also the RSI and the MACD, especially in the 4-hour chart, is showing that we should see a pivot in price. But the daily chart also shows it in the MACD, not so much in the RSI. So we could clearly see a little bit of a still a possible move up, but likely the movement for the dollar will be down next week. Really have to pay attention to fundamentals on what comes out of the news. So I thank you for your time. Take care and God bless.